Welcome back to the Build Right podcast. We've got part 2 with Andy and Kevin Gutman from Bennett Contractors. I'm your host, Scott Raffensperger. So what's your pyramid structure of employees? You know, with you guys being on top, how does that filter down?
Yeah, so we have Kevin and I running the business. We have our CFO, Mike. He oversees the office team. So we have someone that answers the phones and does billing, someone that does payroll, someone that does payables. And then we have 8 project managers is their title. They do sales, estimating, project management. Each of them are essentially their own little business. They have their own team. So they go out on appointments to sell projects. If it's a windows, doors, and siding, they'll hand that project off to our production team. Mm-hmm. So we have a production manager that runs those types of projects with their own crews. But if it's any other type of project, they're going to coordinate getting the designer set up if there's design involved, ordering material, scheduling it, getting their team of anywhere from 4 to 10 guys. Each of those 8 project managers has teams of 4 to 10 guys out and working on the project and making sure the customer's happy. Mm-hmm. And then there's in the field, there's lead carpenters. They're the ones that run the job once the field work starts. And occasionally they might have some carpenter 1s or carpenter 2s or entry carpenters that are laborers helping them out depending on the nature of the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, you know, that pyramid you were talking about below us is that project manager level, and then each of them, like, it's like their own team. Like they all work together under the umbrella of Bennett Contracting, but you know that team under, say, George they're working together to execute George's jobs that he's sold and contracted, but using all the resources that the company has, the vehicles, the equipment, the tools, you know, our systems, our plumber, electrician, our design. We are a lead carpenter based business. So that's kind of in the remodeling industry. Lead carpenter is a term for the person who's on site making decisions, you know, showing up every day of the job, executing the work, producing the actual work, and then calling in help as he needs it. So every project pretty much has a dedicated lead carpenter who's responsible for the production of that job. Mm-hmm. And then that lead carpenter will report to, you know, the project manager if he needs any assistance or help, problem solving. So,
yeah, that lead carpenter model we talk about a lot. Is that how you've always been structured?
Yeah, for a long time. Actually, it was what is it? Remodeler's Advantage. Tim and I forget,
Tim Feller and Doug.
Yeah. Tim Feller. How do you pronounce it?
Faller.
Tim Faller. He was actually the one that documented the lead carpenter program. I think back in the 90s, our father Paul, he really dove into that and took those systems and put them into Bennett. Mm-hmm. You know, created a whole lead carpenter handbook, and you know, in time that's just become ingrained as kind of how we operate. Mm-hmm. So you know, I think some construction companies have a little different formats where the project managers are more like working foremen. And maybe swinging a hammer, but for us, our project managers are more like estimator, you know,
sales, and project coordination and scheduling. You know, mm-hmm. And they manage their team as well. You know, mm-hmm. They're the managers to the people working in the field.
But we find the lead carpenter, you got to empower the carpenter on the job to make decisions. You can't have like this like game of telephone where like just to make a simple decision, you know. So when a job is started, we try to give all the information, you know, details that we can give them. But when they're getting in and, you know, that cabinet needs to be adjusted because it won't fit, like we want them to make that decision without having to stop everything, lose production.
Don't call me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's competitors of ours that, you know, like if the lead carpenter, like we had people come from other companies where like if they needed materials, they couldn't just run to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up the materials. They had to call the office, have the purchaser go and put in a PO. And that's that's going to hamper production. So while it might protect the company from, potential, materials disappearing or something like that, it's creating an environment and a culture of everyone's looking at me. I can't just do my job, what I'm good at. So we want to give them the autonomy to go out and they have to buy a box of screws, even though they're not going to use all of them on that job. Buy the box of screws, put it in your truck, and you'll use it on the next 10 jobs,
So while you guys are kind of backing off on the oversight for small purchases for production purposes, do you oversee the books pretty tight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, we've got great systems in place from an accounting standpoint. Like Kevin talked about, we have the PO program. So every purchase we make, literally tens of thousands a year, because you have 80 employees and they're all going to Home Depot, is going to have a receipt. It's going to have a PO. Our payables person is going to match those up. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And she's very good at it.
Janine is our accounts payable specialist, and she's processing thousands of purchase orders every month.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. But
we have great systems in place that allow her to do that level of volume, and we can check up on everything, and we don't have very many mistakes. I mean, it's if the system's right, and there are going to be some errors here and there, but if the system's set up right, and my background and our CFO's background is very helpful for making sure we have good systems in place.
And back to Andy's history, like his background in accounting, but not only that, let alone construction is instrumental in how we operate. I mean, I can't do any of the things that he does when it comes to, and his understanding of the books is really vital and brings a certain level of expertise in a construction business that it's hard to find.
It's rare.
It's rare in leadership.
Well, there's times you're looking at the numbers and you're nervous about. I'm like, listen, the numbers they're okay. But if you don't have that background to understand, okay, well, the cash flow doesn't always align with the income and this and that. It can be a little nerve wracking if you don't have that background, because just like me, if I were to be asked to frame an addition, that'd be nerve wracking for me, right?
Yeah.
But you could probably go in there and frame it in a heartbeat, but you looking at the numbers might be a little bit more nerve wracking for you, right? So
there was a definite learning curve for me once stepping out of the field, which before the show I was telling you I still sneak out into the field because I enjoy it. But how often do you guys close your books? Because in construction, I'm asking for my own curiosity, and I ask a lot of the guys in the show, and a lot of it seems to vary depending on the size of the company, and what their scope of work is. For us, our projects are so long that a lot of times it doesn't make sense to close them weekly. Maybe monthly works. Other remodeling companies that I've talked to like to do it weekly. Are you guys on that schedule, or how do you handle that?
I mean, we're closing that from an accounting standpoint, closing the books, we do that once a month. I mean, we're billing when a job is done, the job gets submitted to our billing person and it gets billed right away. We do month-end billing as well. So majority of our billing happens in the last week of the month, particularly the larger projects where we're doing progress billings. And we have a whole system set up for that, where the managers are reviewing the reports I send them, telling me how much to bill. I get it to our billing person. But if a job's done and it's ready to bill, hand it to the billing person.
So you're looking at the numbers every day, I'm assuming, but you don't check balance sheets and things like that until the end of the month.
End of the month, yeah. I'm running reports at the end of the month to look at how the jobs are performing, how our balance sheet looks, how our income statement looks, comparing our budget to actual, from our overhead budget to our actual overhead. A lot of analysis. I get the reports to Kevin and our other key employees for them to review. We have a lot of transparency with our project managers and performance, because they're driven by performance, because it's a big part of their compensation. So yes, monthly is the main thing. Our CFO, he is keeping an eye on things on a daily basis, though. He's the one that's setting up the ACHs for all our upcoming payments, making sure cash flow is available to make sure we're not going to overdraw, which we never do. But we rely on him to do that from a day-to-day standpoint.
So you handle a lot of guys. You said hiring for guys in the field, right?
More the operations side of the business, hiring, so personnel, our relationships with our vendors.
So what are some of the KPIs that you notice that are important to make sure things balance out on Andy's end as far as the.
Well, I mean, there's just management of the personnel, just making sure that our staff is functioning and operating as it should. But some of the key indicators are like with vendors. So we keep a pretty close finger on the pulse if our manufacturers and suppliers are doing what they're supposed to, and we have pretty high standards with our vendors. We want them to operate in the same way that we operate, and to they're an extension of us. Our subcontractors, our suppliers, our manufacturers, they're representing us. So we hold them to a pretty high standard, and if they're, say, messing up orders or deliveries or things are getting damaged, we immediately jump on that. And that's actually a pretty frequent thing we're addressing is, is our plumbing supplier, delivering the correct items to the job site? And if they're not, we're talking to them about it. And if they can't correct it, we're looking elsewhere. So we don't like try to burn bridges, but we need to work with people who are going to deliver the level of service that we need.
So one of those indicators that you'll see is if stuff's not getting sent and there's constantly issues or it's arriving late, you got to address that. That pushes things in the right direction for you.
And we have weekly meetings with our sales and design team. So we're getting together, we're talking about anything that's happening. And one of those things is talking about product and vendor updates. And sometimes it's interesting because you have someone on the team say, "Hey, I just want everyone to know I've had this issue, not getting emails back from so and so," and then someone else will say, "I haven't either," and it turns out, getting in the same room and discussing, you discover it's an actual problem that has to be addressed. So there's times when the team can handle it on their own, but there's some times when I'll step in and I'll kind of represent our whole company and address it and figure out a plan of action. How can we fix this? And it's never, it's working together with our vendors. If they succeed, then we're going to succeed too. So, we want to find solutions with them. We don't want to change vendors all the time or manufacturers. It's not easy. It's inconvenient. So, we try to create as much consistency with our vendors as possible. I mean, some of them we've been using, some of our manufacturers for a decade plus now. So,
Andy, are there any indicators that you look at that you notice?
I mean, from a company performance standpoint, I am, when I do those month-end reports, I'm looking at certain indicators. One thing that we really like to look at is what we call gross profit per worker day. So we have the ability, we can, for each carpenter, each project manager, each job, we can break down how many hours are on the job, how much gross profit generated, how much each carpenter generating gross profit. So we when we do our budgeting, we say, okay, this is the profit per worker day. So how much profit per an 8-hour work day are we looking to get on average for the whole year, right? To cover our overhead, make the profit number that we feel comfortable making. So we analyze that monthly and we can see, which project managers are selling at a good pace, which carpenters are working efficiently, effectively.
And there are patterns. You can very clearly see the most productive guys year over year.
Same numbers.
Yeah. And
really?
Yeah. And some of it has to do with their project manager and how they sell and their clients, but a vast majority of it does have to do with that individual's, say, efficiency, skill level, and that's okay, but from a reward and bonus and compensation standpoint, we feel that should be a large part. A large factor is, how productive are you? If someone generates twice as much gross profit as another guy, they shouldn't be receiving the same size bonus, right?
Right.
So, and for a time, that's what we were kind of doing, where we have bonuses for our lead carpenters if we have a profitable year. And the bonuses were within like a few $100s of each other.
Yet the gross profit that one person would generate might be double what the other person was generating.
And these guys, they found that they were kind of upset. They're like, I work twice as much or twice as hard as this next guy over, but he's making the same bonus as me. And we said, that's a really valid point. So we adapted a whole evaluation system for if we have a profitable year, and share that bonus with our lead car
I mean, we evaluate people when we do their annual reviews, and for the bonus, there's 4 categories. There's basically, we call it company satisfaction. How did they do in terms of working with everyone in the company, following the processes that we have in place, the work, the physical work they do, customer satisfaction, productivity, and then safety. So their annual review, we weight all those equally. But for the bonus, productivity number gets triple the weight. So most of their score is based on their productivity number.
Now, you created this sheet?
The annual evaluation sheet and the bonus scoring sheet. Yeah, we create it internally. And
do you guys use any software, or do you handle most of?
We just use Word. I mean, we're a little outdated in that part of the process, but it's simple enough. It works. It gets the job done. So
you want to have a system that you can rely on, but not overcomplicate and create an abundant amount of work. Really, we're just trying to create parity, and a fair way of distributing, sharing profit with our key employees. So,
do you have any project management softwares that you use?
No, we tried out Builder Trend. The problem that we have right now is our accounting software is Sage 100 Contractor. It doesn't integrate very well with other programs. Really? You have to have an API connection to get the data to go between. Yeah. So we have Salesforce, we have this PO program, we have our time entry, but there has to be an intermediary software that kind of takes the data between the two. So the project management software has been tough to find one that would work for us. We will be migrating to what's called Sage Intacct, which is a cloud-based version of Sage, which should make things like that a lot easier to possibly implement.
Yeah, we've considered the project management software. I mean, we use Salesforce for a CRM.
For the front end.
Or the front end contracts. But we're, the type of business we have, for large projects, I think it would be beneficial. You have large, long-term projects, and software can be really helpful. But some of our jobs, they're 1 or 2 days, and, going through the process.
And out,
might be a week for windows and doors, but for a 4-month kitchen project, project management software would probably be very helpful. So it's an area we're missing, but we also don't want to just, implement something like that and invest money something that the whole team wouldn't get behind either.
Yeah, I mean, that one of the challenges, because we're big and we have 8 basically teams that are working out there, you have 8 different ways that people do things. And we have standard Bennett ways, but we provide some level of autonomy for each manager to run his crews the way they want to, varying levels of technology capabilities. To implement a project management program like that, some might jump right on it and be great at it. Some might be more work than makes sense for them, and they're going to end up not producing as much.
Yeah.
But I think we see there is value, particularly from the customer communication. Right now you have text chains, email chains. Someone's on this one, the other person's not on this one. If you had a centralized place for that communication, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and what's tough, I think, about the softwares is there's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And the construction industry is so broad that it's hard to get a program that really hits all the bases for every company. The learning curve is tremendous. And they're also costly. So the time it would take to switch over, you got to weigh that. If you're so used to using Excel or Word, it's like,
it's only as good as the people using it too.
Yeah.
So like your team has to buy in, and then it has to be integral part of what they do day to day. The client has to use it as well. You have to educate them and teach them. So I give a lot of credit to some of these modeling companies that do have software and they're able to integrate it into their process, but it's a big undertaking and like you said, costly too. So
I know a friend of mine, when we were getting into it, told me, he's like, look, just do 1 or 2 things in this. Like, you're going to pay for the whole software, right? But just do 1 or 2 things, and then maybe start with a calendar and start with time clock, and then in 6 months, or if you get comfortable with that in 2 months, then implement 2 more things and 2 more things. Because I just want to jump right. I'm like, I want to do it all. Let's get in there. But he was right, and we did that. And then you start to see a value in, okay, we're entering in good information. We're getting good out. if you enter in shit, you get shit out.
Yes. Yep.
But also, it's harder to find shit if you enter it in on the back end, you know, because like you get a report and it's messed up and you're like, where do we go wrong here?
Yeah.
It's kind of easier to find that on Excel.
Yeah.
At least it was for me. So there was a huge learning curve.
Oh, sure.
Huge.
Yeah. What are you
but it's worth it
using?
now. We use Contractor Foreman.
Okay.
And it was originally geared more towards commercial. But they're constantly adding to it and growing, and it's got everything that Procore does, really.
Okay. Yep.
And it integrates really good with QuickBooks, which is what we use.
That's helpful to have QuickBooks. I know that's much easier to integrate all these other softwares with QuickBooks compared to what we have.
And one of the next steps for us is integrating the email. So right now we use Outlook.
Yep.
I want to get it all on that app. So it's kind of cool. Instead of, I was always a paper guy, like legal pads. You know, I had like 4 or 5 of them all in my briefcase or in my backpack, whatever. To get all that information onto one site or app, you know, whether you're using a tablet.
And you always have accessibility
you
to
always
it.
have it, which is a good and a bad thing. But, you know, if I want to go visit my brother in South Carolina, we go down there for Easter. You know, I bring my laptop. That's it. I don't need anything else. It's all there. You know, I still take notes if I go to look at a project on a legal pad, and then I give them to Kristen, and she'll scan them in, so they're under the project files. You know, but you're not going to get me to carry an iPad on the job. It's just not happening.
I'm the same way.
But yeah, it is helpful. You know, it is helpful. Do you think down the road maybe you'll make a switch to something?
I think at some point it's inevitable. I hate to say it, we've got a few older project managers who it would be better to wait until they're retired, just because it would be a heavy lift for them to take that on. But I think at some point it's inevitable. But we're doing good with what we have right now, and the systems we have seem to work really well. Could there be improvements? Of course, but
I think, you know, with owning an established company, and you know, we've made a lot of changes and implemented some new things. You have to pick and choose your battles. And over the past, 7 years we've now owned the company. We've made a lot of major changes. And if you do too much at any given time, you risk burnout from the team. For sure. Change in a newer company, it's a little bit easier, I think, to take those risks. But in an established company, it comes with a certain level of risk averseness. We've done it this way. It seems to work. Why are we changing it now? So we've had to overcome some of those objections. But after a certain amount of time, whether it's the PO system or the time entry or some software we're trying out, once they see the benefit, then that's where the buy-in comes. So something like that, eventually, I think I agree we might do. But we've got our accounting software that's going to have to change eventually. We just went through a 2 or 3 year Salesforce integration. That was a major overhaul.
But we're strategic about all this. So we do a strategic plan every 3 years. Actually, next Wednesday, we're having our meeting with our entire team to get their input onto the next strategic plan. And when we build that plan with the team's input, we identify what are the priorities, right? So it's not what are the 20 priorities that we have in the next 3 years that we want to accomplish. It's really what are the 4 or 5 priorities, areas that we want to focus on. And then once we identify those areas, what are we going to do to accomplish the goals?
Action items.
Yeah, the action items in those areas to accomplish the goals that we have. So it keeps you focused, and it keeps you from overwhelming everyone with, we might be able to change 25 different things in our company, but it's gonna make it miserable for everyone to do all those at once. So, and sometimes, we talk about one thing, it doesn't happen, it goes in the next iteration. Maybe it'll happen in the next iteration. So.
You got me thinking about like the time clock piece. And one of the cool things about having a single program that handles all your PM stuff is the time clocks in there get connected to a cost code under each job. So if someone's they're going to paint the garage that day, they're on X job, it's GPS, like you said, yours is, and they're painting. So that goes into that
real
cost
time
code.
Cost,
But then that also all goes through into your reports. So that all translates and correlates over.
Yeah.
So it's like you're eliminating all those other steps of entering that data into other softwares. It's just like a one-time entry, and it flows through.
We used to, before we got the electronic time entry, it was paper time cards.
Dude, I've been there.
And to think I think when we made the switch over, we were at probably like 65 or 70 employees.
Oh my God.
And I mean, our payroll, one day I sat down, this was early when I started, I sat down and wanted to learn all the systems and processes. And I had our payroll person walk me through it. And she's like, okay, well, I take all, and I mean, it was literally stacked that tall. It's, hundreds of.
For like 1 week.
For 1 week. And I watched her, and she would manually input the time for each employee into she did it into Excel file. And then she did it into, I think, a second Excel file. That was the upload one. And then she put it into the accounting software. It was just
holy mackerel.
And I was like, this is not efficient. This is not going to be, there's going to be mistakes made.
And you have to check the timesheets too. Make sure
the manager had to approve everything. The guys had to come back to the shop to drop them off. I mean, the inefficiencies that were happening there. So that's when I made the big push that we got to get an electronic time entry. And we did. And there was a little bit of pushback initially, but like you said, the volume and to have all that stuff get automatically put in the accounting system, job costed like that. I mean, the process went from 3 or 4 days of processing payroll to 4 hours. And I think a new person can do it quicker because she's
not only that, the guys, in the field didn't have to spend. They were losing 2 or 3 hours a week
easily.
just because they were filling it out and then delivering it to the office.
And you're paying them for that.
Yeah.
It's non-billable hours. Yeah.
Actually, that's where a lot of our efficiency came in over the last few years. Is POs and time cards. I mean, think about that.
Also, too, if it's electronic, it's down to the minute.
To the minute. Yep.
Versus it's 7:13. You write down 7:15. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's tens of thousands of dollars over a couple of years, especially with 80 employees.
Yeah.
What are some industry trends that you guys have seen? As far in the remodeling side of things. As far as where people are putting their money now in their houses, has anything changed since you've started there, or what's the biggest focus?
I mean, since we started, lots changed. I think that the customer tastes have increased substantially, right? So, I think, the HGTV and Pinterest and Instagram and seeing all that stuff, I think people can see what can be done in remodeling. Whereas before, it was pretty basic in the 90s and 2000s, in terms of what people were doing. I think it started changing a little bit in the 2000s, but it's really blowing up in the last. Yeah, I mean,
influencers and social media certainly has a major impact on people's desire to renovate or remodel and keep up with your neighbors. And access to seeing designs and looks. So on that design build side, without a doubt, social media has impacted. Also, I think from the replacement standpoint, energy efficiency and, access to information, Reddit, people sharing information about, windows and energy efficiency. That's definitely helped, I think, increase interest. Another thing to add to that is we're part of a thing called the 20 Club. I don't know if you've heard of NAHB's 20 Club.
I have heard of that, yeah.
Yeah.
My status isn't there yet. But
It's interesting. So it's a group of similar construction companies, but in different regions around the country. So you get a chance twice a year to meet with these other similar sized businesses too, and share your insights and ask questions, discuss challenges, and kind of get some perspective from other owners that, you can't go to a competitor down the road here and get unbiased feedback. But so some of the things.
And it's open book, correct?
It's open book. Yeah, you got to show all your numbers, balance sheets. You got to go in with an open mind and be a little bit vulnerable. Yeah,
was that weird doing that for the first time? Because I'd have a really hard time doing that.
So the first one was focus on the financials.
Yeah.
And I had a baby a year ago in October, and he went there, I think 2 weeks after she was born, so I couldn't go. So he had to go and do the whole presentation, talk about our financials, and he called me the day before.
This is my job.
He's like, at least just walk me through some of this stuff so I understand.
I understand the basics of it, but he knows every nuance of the balance sheet and cash flow. But at the end of that, I was the last person to present, and the presenter, Greg Crabtree, who's well known in the construction industry,
particularly remodeling
and accounting and business practices. He was like, looked at my numbers. He's like, so what's the magic trick? What are you guys doing that everyone else isn't doing? What's the secret? Yeah. So it validated that, we're doing a good job, and, our balance sheet is very strong. And being around other owners who have similar businesses, it just provided a level of validation I think we were seeking as new owners. But it's a great chance to hear what's happening throughout the country and trends and stuff like that. And demand, AI has been a big thing that we've been talking about. I mean, we're not heavily involved with AI, but we're seeing it creep up more.
We're paying attention. To see where it's going to impact our industry. I think on the sales marketing side, for sure, you're going to see AI more prevalent. And on the design side, I think it could come in there. I still think you need to have that human interaction from a design standpoint. But, we have to stay aware of where that's going. So.
Where I'm surprised it hasn't taken off is the estimation. They're trying, but I put a house plan into AI a few weeks ago, and it was horrible. The takeoff it sent me was brutal.
Well, for remodeling too, in particular, every house is different, right? So like you don't know what you're going to see behind the walls. You don't know what's not going to be level, plumb, out of square.
Yeah, I mean, they do have these tools where you go in with a camera and it takes like a digital rendering of the room. But again, there's so many little nuances that AI is not going to take into account. So we view it more as a resource. AI can be a tool to help, but it's not going to be the end all be all. I remember some of the other people in the group were like, I'm going to get rid of my designers now. I'm just going to have AI. And I'm like,
that's not a good
luck.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten a phone call from an AI assistant? Because I have, and I just hang up. Because I don't want. I don't want to talk.
Hundreds of junk. Phone calls and emails on a monthly basis, but so I probably have. I just don't. I ignore them.
Well, that human interaction is important. I think, and that's one of the things that we've always said as a company sets us apart is, like, I'm with you every step of the process. And I like being involved with other people. I think that we're meant as a race to do that. But what blows my mind is that you can't even put a blueprint in and get an accurate estimate out yet, or takeoff out yet. Like, they've got a long way to go.
No, I agree.
That would seem like such a simple task to me. But remodeling side, I don't know how it would do a takeoff.
I don't know how either. I mean, it's there's so many, and when our estimators go out to look at a project too, the customer doesn't know exactly what they're doing. It's not like they have like a plan for their kitchen. Like, they might be, can I take down a wall? Can I not take down a wall? So there's options that they got to look through and figure out what's going to make sense to be reasonable. And,
And like you said, I mean, the human interaction, that's what a relationship is. These are relationships that we're building with our customers and our employees. And if you take away that element, it's not a relationship anymore. You're working with a machine. I am seeing AI a little bit on hiring side of things. For example, like Indeed, when I find a candidate, it'll offer an AI response to take their resume and create a letter to them saying, I'm interested. I see that you've got experience in kitchens and baths. Would you be curious to apply? So it's little tools like that I'm seeing AI.
Yeah, that's great stuff too. I mean, it helps
meeting
really
summaries,
cuts time.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Podcast layouts, types of Where are you guys finding a lot of your hires? As Indeed is
Recruiter? Referrals.
Referrals sometimes.
Occasionally.
I mean, Indeed is the primary source. It's become the primary source. Word of mouth is another thing. We have the benefit of a well-established brand in the area. So usually people have heard of us. Alternatively, sometimes we have people who have moved to the area and they're new here and they find us on Indeed. And I have a pretty good system in place for qualifying, interviewing, and hiring people. So as you know, hiring, it's always a gamble.
Yeah.
You got to use your intuition, right? That's probably first and foremost, is use your kind of gut intuition. And you got to give them a shot. You know, you can only really find out until they're in the field working next to other people. So,
yeah, I think what's benefited me in the past the most is hiring based on the type of person someone is rather than their skills.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, anybody can learn carpentry, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. But are you a good person? Are you honest?
Yep.
Are you able to talk to the customer and not be a total jerk off?
Yeah.
You know, like those are important things, really.
And self-awareness too.
Yeah.
Like, does their perception of who they are and their skill level align with my perception? You know, are they aware that, like, because you've probably had guys, I can do anything.
Oh, that's huge in this industry.
If someone
probably all, to be fair, but
if someone comes to me and they say, I can do anything, I've done it all, it's a red flag.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, someone who's self-aware is like, I'm really great with this. Here's some areas that I need to work on. Like, that's a perfect candidate because they can identify pros and cons and not just inflate their ego.
Yeah. I don't say I've done it all. I say I've messed it all up. That's what I always tell people. Yeah. Problems don't bother me anymore because I probably screwed that up before in the past. But
that's another good thing that I talk about too, is mistakes are essential for growth. You know, and so, you know, with our current employees, when they make mistakes, you know, the conversation isn't, you know, threatening them. It's saying, what did we learn from this? And how are we going to prevent that from happening again? Because, you know, the next time they encounter that situation, you know, and that mistake they made, they're gonna remember the pain that they experienced, the discomfort from that, and, you know, hopefully not make that same mistake again. Yeah. So,
we all love business, and this is our favorite thing in the world to do, right? Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, it's all small stuff.
It is. Yes.
Really is. Especially once you start having kids and a family. It's like, okay, you hit a fiber optic wire.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude, we'll get it fixed. You know,
something's always going to come up that's going to be a challenge in being a business owner. But you're right. Like, we're not doctors. We're not saving lives. You know, we're just making people have happier houses. You know, like, which is a great thing. So, like, if a few mistakes happen along the way, you ride it, you get through it, you move on, you know.
Well, you guys have been incredibly generous giving me your time today. This is awesome because it really, I think, gives people a perspective of how running a construction company is not just putting on a tool belt and going and banging nails. You know, you guys have taken a whole different approach, which I admire. I mean, I could sit here for another 4 hours with you, but I'm not going to turn this into a Joe Rogan.
We'd have to be drinking beers.
Yeah. I do want to finish with a couple things. One is just hear both yours favorite project. That's the first thing. So, Kevin, you go first.
Like a recent favorite project that we've completed?
That can be any project since you've been there.
Well, I mean, I know one that I'll let you take the Jones job. No, we had a recent project, actually for friends of mine. You know, occasionally we work with friends or acquaintances, but it was all the siding, all the windows, doors. It was a basement, kitchen. All the floors throughout the house. It was pretty extensive, massive, and a long job. But the transformation is pretty extreme. I mean, we put masonry all on the outside. It took a lot longer than we had hoped, but it's one of those. You know, we're going to get some drone shots hopefully, and it's a transformational project that really took the house to the next level and came out beautiful. So that would be the one I'd mention.
Yeah, that was a good one. The other one Kevin was referring to is a project that we did last year. It's the largest residential remodeling project we had ever done. It was a full house remodel. It was a farmhouse in Selkirk that was built in 1845. It had been in the current family for 3 generations, and the granddaughter of the grandmother who originally moved into that house in the early 1900s, she was moving in with her fiance, and they wanted to make the house their own home. The house was dated. I mean, it was from 1845, but it also hadn't had much, work done on it in several years. So it was a full gut remodel down to the studs. And then we're talking studs. We're talking, wood beams that were over 100 years old.
Beam.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Like true dimensional stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It was impressive to see when it was gutted. but 2 huge additions,
all new utilities, radiant floors, every bathroom, kitchen,
the whole thing, and it came out amazing. And it was a huge team effort. Obviously, there's going to be hiccups along the way, but we all pulled together as a team. And I tip my hat to the designers, to the project manager Tony, to the entire field team that worked on that job. I mean, it was amazing, and the final product is outstanding.
How did that job come in? Like, who was the first phone call? Who received the first call on that?
I mean, we get, because of our brand recognition, we get a lot of leads just from phone calls to the office or online inquiries, and it was just one that happened to come in and got assigned to Tony.
Well, you're like, wait, what?
It was actually funny.
The story's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it was funny. He met with them, and he went through weeks, if not a few months of putting, estimating, because a job that scale, estimating it's a challenge. And I think initially there was sticker shock, and then they actually went to another local remodeler, got in contract with them, and then they went through all the process of designing everything. So a lot of the designs are actually done, but that contractor, for whatever reason, just stopped answering calls. Work was supposed to begin in a few months, and then they didn't call them back, and just basically.
I think eventually the contractor said, "I'll give you your deposit back, and I can't do the project."
Yeah, because it's such a large scale for anyone.
Yeah.
They were getting married. They want to have this done before their wedding in a year and a half from when this was going on. So they called back Tony, our project manager, and they're like, "Hey, it fell through. Can we bring you back to the table?" He's like, "Yeah, but I got to look back. I mean, this is 6 or 8 months at least." He's like, "I got to look at all the numbers again because prices have gone up, and we're not trying to screw anyone over. That's the truth. I mean, over the last couple of years." So we went back, and the price did change a little bit. But we're like, we can do this, and we're not going to bail on you. Mm-hmm. And we didn't, and it was a great project.
It's a good partnership with them. Yeah.
And how long did that take? It
was about a year.
That's
about 12 months.
Project.
It started in April, and it was 95% done by Christmas, but there was punch list items that waiting on things to come in, so it was done completely by April a year later.
What a lot of people don't realize too is the relationship that you have to have with a customer in a long-term project like that.
And this was a great customer. They were like you couldn't ask for a better customer. They were very decisive. They knew what they wanted. They were understanding when things came up because they knew things were going to come up in an old home like that. But it was a great person to work with, and
those big projects, and you probably know this. It's like a marathon. And it's tough sometimes to maintain a good relationship just because of fatigue, and just, it's a long process. And so communication is big for that, keeping everyone informed, working together to solve problems when they come up, and knowing that you have each other's back, and, I think is important.
I had this conversation the other day with a client that's using us to build a house for them. And they're great people. And they came into our office for the first meeting, and they thought it was like feeling us out. And I had a conversation a couple weeks later with them, and I said, it was really the other way around. And I don't know how it came up, but he's in construction as well. And I said, I don't want to do this if I don't enjoy it, and you can tell a lot from the first couple of meetings with a customer whether or not it's going to be a good relationship, and that makes all the difference in a project. Yeah. So really those first few meetings is us vetting them, saying, all right, and Kristen and I will talk when they leave. We're like, is this going to be a good fit, good partnership throughout this project? And if yes, we move forward. But we've said no. We've told people, no, this isn't going to work, and giving deposits back and things like that. So, but it's funny because
you have to be able to have that attitude and approach, because if you're a reputable business, you want to be working with reputable customers, right? So if you can sense that there's going to be some sort of issues working with this person, it's not the right thing to get into, obviously.
Yeah, and it's probably more important for a company like us. It's a long term. If you're going in for a couple of days doing a window replacement, it's not really that imperative.
Our project managers, they're wanting to sell so hard that sometimes they'll put the blinders up. But for the bigger projects, they're definitely
there's qualifications.
They're qualifying the customer for those much larger projects to make sure they're the right fit.
And it's not just for our managers, but they're looking out for our carpenters too.
Oh yeah,
because the carpenters are, they're in that personal space every day. And so, we've encountered customers who are just not a good fit, and that the lead carpenter, they get fatigued. They're like, I can't go back. This person's breathing down my neck, or,
We've had a few people that retired shortly after, and they were going to retire, but after being on a really challenging customer, where it was the tipping point for their career, and they're just, I can't do this anymore, just because the people were just so difficult to deal with, and that's a tough thing to see happen. But
that's changed a lot since COVID too. Yeah. I think customers have gotten a little bit, I don't want to say more difficult, but more needy, which is okay as long as it's you keep control of it. But
there was a time period though where they couldn't be overly needy because there was such a high demand that it was like, all right, we're the one calling the shots here.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that somewhat facetiously, but like if you want to work with a reputable company, you got to get on board with the way that we're doing this,
Yes.
and
I think a lot of people come in, meet a contractor with preconceived notions of how to interact with the contractor, maybe based on previous experiences. And we try to overcome that, because that's not how, the classic, kind of standing your ground and butting heads and, yelling and screaming. Like, we don't operate that way. And sometimes we need to kind of readjust people's expectations that, like, we're not that kind of contractor.
Yeah. Well, I had said this to somebody one time, and I don't know why it just came out, but this is kind of our mindset is, even though this is the project we're doing right now, this house for you, our goal is to build your next house, not this one.
Yeah.
We've already signed here. We know it's going to go smooth. We've got the right systems in place and workers and employees and contractors. Our goal is to make sure we get that next one.
Or their family member, or their friend. That's looking for a house. Yeah.
We want you to be happy in the end.
I think something like, for us, 65% of our business comes from repeat or referral.
Yeah.
And, we do a large volume. So
that's serious. That's a big number.
Our advertising numbers are very small because of that. So it's,
you could have told that guy that's the secret sauce.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is. Last thing, and you guys have been awesome. Thank you. If you had to tell anybody starting out one piece of advice, what would that be? Andy, you first.
Starting out in the remodeling industry, I would say, if you're going to run a business, right, don't just focus on the trade. The trade's an important part starting it, but expand your knowledge outside of just the trade itself. You got to understand sales. You got to understand estimating. You have to understand accounting, human resources. If you're going to grow your business, and you don't have to be an expert right away, but start educating yourself on what is a balance sheet, what's an income statement, where do I need to market my business? How do I market my business? I think just relying on your skill set of being a tradesperson can only get you so far.
Totally.
So I think you really need to think broader than what you're good at and make yourself good at other things. You don't have to be the expert. Eventually you'll find the experts that will be better than you, but initially that's what you have to do.
That's great advice. How about
yeah,
you?
I mean, to expand on that, I think, if
no, you need to say your own piece. Don't copy your brother.
Piggyback.
Same college. Now you're.
I know.
I've
heard it all.
Yeah.
For someone trying to get in and grow a construction business, I think you need to find, like we said before, people who are better at things than you are, but not just that. You need to take care of them, and you need to pay them well, and you have to make them feel a part of that organization. So you don't grow a business just on your own. Maybe certain types of businesses, but construction, you need to rely on other people. They have to buy in. They have to feel appreciated. It's not easy doing that. You have to be sometimes a little bit selfless. But in the end, that comes back to benefit the whole organization. So we've found that with Bennett. If you take care of your employees, they're going to take care of you.
Awesome.
Also, say one last thing. I'll say.
No.
Go
ahead.
I think for someone entering the business, your goal shouldn't be to work hard. It should be eventually to work smart, right? So we don't work 78 hours a week. I mean, we work full weeks, but I don't want to be working 70, 80 hours a week. I want to be able to have a balanced lifestyle. So your goal, initially you're going to have to build that business, you're going to have to put in the hours, but your goal in the long term needs to be to figure out how to have the right balance. So you're working smarter, not harder. And that was something that, Greg and Paul always taught us was don't overcomplicate things, work smart, not hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to focus on a trade, then go work for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have a lot of friends of mine from growing up.
We'll hire you. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Come work for Bennett.
Over. A lot of friends of mine growing up, they're really good at certain things, but then they think because they're good at framing, they're going to start a framing company. Yeah. That's just an example, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way because that was me. But I was lucky enough to have a knack for and enjoy the business side of things, which allowed us to grow.
Yeah,
but. That's good advice. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
How can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to our website, BennettContracting.com. Bennett has 2 N's and 2 T's.
Okay. We'll put it in the subtitle. So
you can find us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
We have a great Instagram and Facebook feed that shows a lot of work that we perform on a weekly basis. It's popping out new content. So,
and then. Yeah, you see our trucks around with the Bennett logo, the big Bennett B. So keep an eye out for those. And everyone always says, we see your trucks everywhere, and that's some of our best advertising. So be driving around the community.
Or call us.
Awesome.
518-462-6731. We have an initial prompt, but eventually you will always talk to a person with
You'll get to a person.
There's like 3 prompts, but usually the first one is if you like to talk to our customer relations manager, set up an appointment. That's one. So
awesome.
Talk to a person.
I'm usually the guy screaming operator on the phone.
0. We usually pick up every phone call, but that got to be a little bit too much. So there are a few prompts, but it's important for us to answer phone calls.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. Thank you guys for listening. With me today is Andy and Kevin Gutman with Bennett Contracting. If you're liking what you're hearing or watching, viewing, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the major podcast providers, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm your host, Scott Raffensperger. Thanks a lot. See you next time.